Game week 20 hasn't finished yet. However, if you're anything like me, then I'm sure you're already looking at what transfers you're going to make for game week 21. So let's have a look at 6 players you should be looking to buy in your FPL teams for game week 21. Okay, right. The first player we're going to look at is Daniel Muñoz from Crystal Palace. Now, I've got his numbers on screen. These numbers all come from Fantasy Football Hub. So check them out if you want to look at all kinds of statistics on there. But he is just 4.7 million right now, and he is ridiculously attacking. Now, when Palace played Chelsea this weekend, he was the second highest Palace player on the pitch behind Mateta. So higher than Sarr, higher than Eze, higher than all the other midfielders. He just plays incredibly attacking. Mitchell kind of tends to sit back a little bit more, albeit he's actually pretty attacking himself as well. But Muñoz joins in on all the attacks. And numbers-wise, it kind of reflects that. I mean, shots in the box there, 20. That's second out of all defenders in the game. Only Gvardiol has more. XG, 3.47. That's the highest out of any defenders. Big chances, 8. That's the highest out of any defenders. And shots, 21. I believe that's third behind Pedro Porro and Gvardiol. So his attacking numbers are absolutely brilliant. He's always getting into the right positions. He's always kind of making his way into the box or holding down the kind of width on the right so that he can put a nice cross in for the big man Mateta. His numbers are just a joke. He always plays, obviously he plays in that wing back role as well, which definitely helps his ability to get forward. But most importantly, the fixtures are unbelievable for Crystal Palace. You can see on the bottom over on that side of your screen, Leicester away up next, West Ham away after that, Brentford at home, who when they play away from home they're definitely not as good, albeit they just won 5-0, but it was against Southampton, so you can't really look too much into that. Then it's Man United away, and Man United have been awful recently. And then it's Everton at home. Now the Everton defence has been quite good recently, but a Crystal Palace fixture at home is not going to be great for them. So the next 5 are absolutely brilliant fixtures wise. So he is definitely one to look at. Like I say, he's only 4.7 million. He may go up in price by the time you watch this video, but at the moment it's 4.7. He is just perfect. And also, because he's so attacking, you can play him in every single game. You don't need to worry about the fact if he plays against, like I said, Man United, or let's say he plays against a Man City or a Liverpool. Yes, Man City, Liverpool are probably going to score against Crystal Palace, but he's always got a chance of getting an attack in return. That's why, if you owned him and played him in this Chelsea fixture in game week 20, obviously they conceded pretty early doors. However, like I say, he's got this attacking threat, so there's many routes to points. It's not like other defenders where once they concede, you're not likely to get any other points. Muñoz isn't that, so he is definitely one to look at. Now, let's have a look at one of his teammates. Right, so the next player we're looking at is Eze. Now, on screen, I've only got the last 3 game weeks, and there's a reason for that. So, before the last 3 weeks, Eze was injured for 1 game. Before that, he was playing a little bit, but then he was injured before that. So, when he came back from the original injury, I believe it was a hamstring injury, he came back from that injury and his minutes were being managed, like very managed, in that he was playing 50-something minutes, 60-something minutes, 70-something minutes. He then hurt his toe or foot, something like that, a more impact issue rather than a muscle injury. So he had 1 game out for that, and then the last 3 games he's been back from that. And he's played over 80 minutes in all 3 of them, so the minutes are no longer an issue. Admittedly, he's quite an injury-prone footballer in general, so we do need to watch out for the fact that he could get injured again. However, we've talked about Palace's fixtures: Leicester away, West Ham away, Brentford at home, Man United away, Everton at home. The fixture run is unbelievable. It's as good as any team in the league. And Eze is just one of those players that is a talisman for his team. So the last 3 games that he's been back, we've got the numbers on screen here. So 12 shots, that is the joint most in the league with Salah. So can't argue with that. Shots in the box, 5. Over 3 appearances, that isn't the best. However, Eze can score from outside of the box, probably better than most people can. But he's also got a goal and an assist in this time, as you can see on screen. The Palace attack just looks better with him in it. They are a lot more dangerous with him in it. And the three up top now, Mateta, Eze, Sarr, that's just a staple attack. And to be honest, those three will cause problems for these 5 teams. And not only that, Eze is potentially on penalties now. It's not definite that he's on penalties. Mateta took the last one and scored it, to be fair. So the likelihood is Mateta does take the next one. However, Glasner has said that Mateta isn't going to be able to play 90 minutes every single game. So when Mateta isn't on the pitch, whether that be from the start, it's very unlikely that Mateta doesn't start a game. But let's say Mateta starts a game and comes off after 70 minutes. Those last 20 minutes, Eze is taking the penalty if they get one. Admittedly, it's not a large amount of time for him to be on penalties, but it is still a nice thing to have. He's on a lot of set pieces, he's on free kicks, he's on corners from at least one side when it's an in-swinger. So yeah, he's just got everything you want from a good FPL asset, really. And he's only 6.6 million. I think he started the season at 7 million, and then injuries and what have you kind of made people sell him, which it makes a lot of sense. However, I think at 6.6 million, he's an absolute bargain, especially with these fixtures coming up. Okay, the next player we're going to look at is Phil Foden. So we've got 2 players from Man City now. The first is Foden. And again, it's because the fixtures are quite nice. They're definitely not as nice as Crystal Palace's fixtures. But you can see there, Brentford away next. Brentford do have a tendency to concede quite a lot of goals. Admittedly, they score a lot of goals as well. And Brentford are much better when they're playing at home, which this game is at home for them. But I do still think it's a good fixture because, like I say, their defence isn't the best. Then they've got Ipswich away. Very, very good fixture. It's a shame that these 2 games aren't at home because then it would be really nice. After that, the fixtures do get a little bit worse with Chelsea at home, albeit Chelsea's defence isn't the best. And if they're playing at Manchester, in Manchester as well, it'll be an easier game than if it were at Stamford Bridge. But yeah, Chelsea's defence isn't the best. Arsenal away and Newcastle at home, they are kind of tough fixtures. So it's more of a short-term pick, definitely. But Phil Foden's good. So we've got on screen here the last 5 game weeks. And the reason I've got the last 5 game weeks is because that's when he's come back into the team and he started. He was on the bench, he was injured before that. So it's unfair to kind of look at the numbers kind of when he was injured and not playing. These last 5 games, so he started all 5 of them. He has played 90 minutes in 4 of them. So firstly, that's a good sign. Secondly, Man City have kind of sorted themselves out a little bit. Admittedly, it's probably the fixtures they've had. So they've played Leicester and then they've played West Ham. Won both games. They're scoring more goals now. They scored 2 against Leicester, 4 against West Ham. Admittedly, it's probably the opponents. I'm not sure Man City are now back and they're going to be this kind of best in the league team again. But it is encouraging. It's also encouraging that it kind of coincides with Pep finding a good 11. So he started the exact same team in the Leicester game and the West Ham game, and they've won both of those games. So you'd like to think that he will probably keep the same 11 for the next game or the next 2 potentially, which are the good fixtures. So that's what we want if we're buying Phil Foden. Now, the numbers are also very good. So 2 goals, 1 assist in that time, and a goal and an assist is in the last 2 as well. Shots on target and shots, 14 shots in 5 games. Again, that's pretty good. That's just under 3 per game. So that is not to be sniffed at. XG of 1.5 as well, and an XA of 1.43. So roughly 3 XGI in 5 games. That's very good. The XA, expected assists, is actually top 5 in the league over that time. So Phil Foden's numbers are looking great. Big chances created 2, big chances 1 as well. All of the numbers are looking very good. And like I say, City seem to have been performing well over the last 2 games, so I highly doubt he now gets rotated out. However, you never know with Pep Guardiola. Sticking with Man City, we've now got Savio. So as we've mentioned, the fixtures are good, at least for the next 2 or 3. So we don't need to go over that again. The reason, again, I've got a different number of stats on screen, I've got 3 game weeks worth, because that's when he came back into the starting 11. Before that, he was benched for 3, 4, 5 weeks. So there's no point in looking at those numbers. We're looking at the numbers when he's recently started, which is the last 3. Now, he's got 5 attacking returns in those 3 games. 1 goal, 4 assists, and actually all 5 of those have come in the last 2 games, which happens to coincide with City's good few results. Admittedly, again, caveat is that the fixtures were good. West Ham and Leicester, both good fixtures. But yeah, Savio's great numbers have coincided with City playing very well. And he is absolutely brilliant. When you watch him, he'll try and beat his man. He will then put in the most unbelievable crosses. His left foot is a wand. So he is brilliant. The setup in the last 2 games at least has been Savio on the left wing and Foden on the right wing. So that does mean that Savio isn't necessarily going to be cutting in and shooting like a Saka or a Salah would. It means that he'll be kind of beating his man and then whipping across into Haaland, which I'm pretty sure is what at least 2 of those assists have been in the last 2 weeks, whipping a ball in to Haaland. So that's what we want to see from him. Again, the numbers are good. 11 shots in 3 games. That's almost 4 per game. That's unbelievable numbers. 9 shots in the box. Again, that's 3 per game. Fantastic. XG isn't the best. 0.5 from 3 games isn't great. XA of 1.51 is unbelievable though from 3 games. I don't know where that sits in the league, but I imagine it's at least top 5, probably top 3 in the league. And again, big chances 1, big chances created 2. So the numbers are very good. And like I mentioned, the last 2 games have been great for City. They've got the result. 2-0 against Leicester, like I say. 4-1 against West Ham, like I say. So it would be very, very surprising, I think, if Pep now decided to change that lineup about, especially as Savio has been the one creating a lot. He's got, like I say, he's got 4 assists in, well, they've all come in the last 2 games when they've been winning. So he's clearly a brilliant creative outlet on the left. I highly doubt that Pep will now decide that he wants to take that creative outlet away, given that it's brought them so many goals. So yeah, another thing to really like about Savio as well is that he's so cheap. Foden is obviously quite a bit more expensive. De Bruyne is a bit more expensive. Savio is just 6.4 million at the time of recording anyway. He's probably 6.5 by now, potentially even 6.6. Regardless, even if he anything under 7 million, he is an absolute bargain playing for Man City with those fixtures. So he is definitely one to have a look at. Okay, moving on to a different team now, and it's Newcastle's Anthony Gordon. Now, a lot of people brought him in for Game Week 20 and they profited nicely. He's got himself a goal in Game Week 20, but he's still brilliant to look at. Look at their fixtures. Wolves at home, Bournemouth at home, Southampton away, Fulham at home. Those 4 are unbelievable fixtures. Wolves at home, especially this week, Bournemouth at home, and Fulham at home. That's 3 home games in 4 weeks. Newcastle are one of those teams as well, not quite to the extent that Brentford are, but Newcastle have been much better at home this season. They're very tough to beat at St James's Park. And the only away game in that 4-game run is Southampton away. And Southampton, when they're at home, I mean, Brentford just put 5 past them. So who knows what Newcastle could do. Now, Newcastle's form in the last 5 game weeks-ish has been unbelievable. They've won all 5 of their last games. They've only conceded 1 goal, I believe, in that time as well. So, not that directly impacts Gordon too much, as he only gets 1 point for a clean sheet. However, that's still 4 clean sheet points over the last however many weeks. It all helps. But not only that, Gordon has returned in all of those 5 games as well. You can see the numbers up here. 2 goals and 3 assists. And they actually all came in different games. So he's not putting up these massive point totals. He's not getting you a 15 pointer or even like a 12, 14 pointer. Although that does look like it could be coming, to be honest, because he's having a fair amount of shots and he's creating quite a lot of chances as well. 5 big chances in the last 5 weeks is pretty good. So it wouldn't surprise me if we did see a haul from him, but at the moment he's just kind of ticking along with 1 return each game week. However, that is picking him up a lot of points. Now this XA number is pretty decent. 1.7 from 5 games is very good, and it's got him 3 assists. So most of us have Isak in our teams, and obviously he's doing brilliantly as well in this run. But that kind of is the problem in the sense that everyone has Isak, so we're not really profiting from Newcastle's good fixtures and Newcastle playing well. Whereas if you double up on Newcastle attack, then you can profit. Not as many people own Anthony Gordon, so it's a nice differential to kind of own Isak and Gordon, and potentially one of their defenders like Lewis Hall as well. You could even do the triple up. The fixtures are good enough for it. So yeah, Anthony Gordon is definitely one that you should be looking at. Right, and the last player we're going to look at is Chris Wood from Nottingham Forest now. He has been the man of this season. His numbers have been a joke, or his goals have been a joke anyway. We'll talk through his numbers. Appearances 19, goals 11, assists 1. So he's not interested in creating anything, he just wants to be scoring goals, and that's fair enough. We'll go back to the rest of the underlying numbers in a minute, but the fixtures are pretty good. Now, obviously game week 21 is Liverpool at home. Not a good fixture, of course. Liverpool have been one of the better defences this season. However, Forest have been one of the better attacks anyway, so I don't think it's too much to worry about. Obviously, that fixture does mean that you could wait a week to bring him in, so that you then get Southampton at home as the first fixture that you've got him for. Southampton at home is, of course, about as good a fixture as you can get. So you could wait a week, like I say. You then have Bournemouth away, you then have Brighton at home and Fulham away. Now, none of these teams are kind of whipping boys or the worst defences in the league, don't get me wrong. But they're also not the best defences in the league, albeit Fulham have actually been up there numbers-wise. But it wouldn't surprise me at all if we saw a fair amount of goals in those three fixtures, and obviously the Southampton game as well. Now, going back to his underlying numbers, they're actually not great. So 11 goals is, of course, unbelievable. But 11 goals from 34 shots is some kind of strike rate as such. Most other players, so the likes of Salah, Palmer, Haaland, Isak, all the other players that are the top scorers in the league, have all taken a lot more shots to get to their kind of goal tally. Most of them have taken 50, 60, 70, Haaland's even taken 80 shots. So I guess it's kind of a hot streak of finishing as such. And you can see that shots on target as well, 20. That's pretty much one shot on target per game, which isn't that great. Shots in the box, 27. Again, that's like 1.5 shots on target, shots in the box each game. It's not the best. He's overperformed his XG, as you can see. 6.5 XG, 11 goals, 15 big chances. So he's just, every chance he gets, he's taking. Now, that might not necessarily be a bad thing. I mean, as long as it continues, it's not a problem. However, what we do tend to see is over a long period of time, most strikers will regress to their mean XG as such. There is some players in the world that just kind of outperform the XG, like someone like Son does it quite a lot. Obviously, the likes of Messi, he does it. Haaland actually tends to do it as well. But so it's not unheard of for a player to just outperform the XG consistently. And to be honest, it doesn't really matter if the underlying numbers are great necessarily. The fixtures are good, and you might as well just ride the wave with Chris Wood. The fixtures are great, like I say, so I think you can bring him in now or next week, and like I say, just ride this hot finishing streak. And that wraps up this one. Those are 6 players that you should be looking at transferring into your team for game week 21. If you've got any questions about anything I've spoke about today, drop them in the comments. If you've got any questions on your own team, drop them in the comments. Make sure you hit like, make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.